Welcome to Oyate Today. Oyate in Lakota means people. Brought to you by Native Sun News Today. Hi, welcome to Oyate Today. I am your host, Richie Richards. Oyate Today is produced by Tim and Jackie Gallego. Tim is an enrolled member of the Oglala Sioux tribe. Our guest tonight is Dr. Art Zimiga. Thank you so much for being here, sir. I appreciate your time.
It's a pleasure. I just want to say to the Lakota people out there, Chante Washte, na pe choose a yellow. I just want to let them know that I'm there for them.
Hey, that's nice of you. Thank you so much. And, we really appreciate you coming in and taking the time to visit with us tonight. So, Dr. Zimiga, can you tell us a little bit about yourself then and, kind of some background, bio information, things like that, so we can kind of get up to speed with Dr. Zimiga?
Well, I was born on Pine Ridge Reservation and lived down in Allen, South Dakota, kind of they call the Skokpa area. But from there, I went to, during World War II, my father was in the service, and my mother went to Hot Springs, and at Hot Springs, and we lived there till he came back. So then my brothers and Bob and Charlie, Bob went to, he went to, it was called Ogallala Community High School. And then also I went to Holy Rosary, but they kicked me out. I asked too many questions.
Yeah.
You know, why are we eating mush and the fact that we could smell those eggs and toast.
The good stuff.
The good stuff.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's probably not a bad thing, though. I heard some good and bad things of Holy Rosary. The bonds that were made there were really strong and really positive. Some of the living conditions weren't so.
Well, and the thing to me is that I asked to go there. And so to me, it was kind of like Huck Finn, and because it was playtime, and I just kind of enjoyed that, to be around other Lakota people, When you go to a public school, you might be the only Lakota child in the whole class.
Yeah.
So it was fun,
Yeah.
But also I think that was important. It gave me another different sense of how education was different for these young people that had to stay in boarding schools. And so from there, I graduated from Provo High School in 1959, and I went to the University of South Dakota. And there was people that really contribute to my experiences, educational experiences. John Artichoker, Evelyn Bergen, they were Native people. And they went and they said, I was a 5-year letterman. And so I loved sports. And I used to like to go to the rodeos.
Yeah.
And my dad used to say, you're going to end up being a rodeo bum. So from there, I was in the service, 819th Headquarters Command. And in that, I had a top secret clearance. And so I was well trained. I had been at the university. I had 3 years of ROTC. So, and I was drafted, so.
You were drafted into Vietnam?
Vietnam, yeah.
Okay.
And 1 week later, they said, they stopped the draft, or so, But I wasn't really gung-ho about going to Vietnam because I was working with Garrett Air Research. And we were doing as some young engineers, they were doing the space shuttles, the Gemini and the Mercury, and they were working on the Apollo.
Wow.
So I started out in the training program pushing bar stock around at Garrett Air Research, and I was going into management. That's the way they taught you. I noticed that parallel with the military. They would test to see if you'd be able to do that job. Mm-hmm. So from then, I came back and went to college on the GI Bill that the state of South Dakota gave us. It was a couple $1,000s. I worked road construction. I did all those kinds of things. But here was the first time I went back to college, and I finished at Sioux Falls College. I was a bus driver, in town to make ends meet. So
Yeah.
I've done all those kinds of things, probably in the formal sense, and also in the work sense. And so I learned how to operate heavy equipment. Mm-hmm. And so my life has been, all that variances. And so then I went to UCLA on a scholarship. I was going to try to figure out after Vietnam, figure out who I was. Mm-hmm. So I wanted to go into clinical psychology. And when I was at UCLA, I asked the vice chancellor there, Chancellor Young, I said, hey, how come you have all these other minorities, how come you don't have Native Americans here? The largest population relocation of people, one of them is Los Angeles. Mm-hmm. And he said, well, Art, he said, you can recruit 25 this quarter, 25 the next quarter. I said, no, hold it. I'm a graduate student. He said, well, if you're not going to do it, who do you think will? Do you think a white guy's going to do this? Mm. Do you think somebody else? You have to make a choice. So we developed the curriculum. We developed other people we recruited that were teachers, and we're all Native people.
So did you develop a curriculum for Native American studies then?
Yeah.
Is that, wow.
And mine, for me, that I developed was a curriculum in using the library.
Research.
And so those students would come in, and I felt if they knew about themselves, then they could utilize that in what they do, because who knows better than the person themselves instead of, somebody else telling you who you are.
So what were some of the things that you recognized then in developing that curriculum, that Native American Studies or American Indian Studies curriculum then? What was lacking and what was currently available at that time then for the need to develop a whole new curriculum just for this area then? What was lacking?
You see, they had black studies. Mm-hmm. They had all kinds of Chicano studies. Mm-hmm. Mexican American studies. Mm-hmm. And at that time, but only thing they knew about indigenous people in the United States was the anthropologist. And at that time, there was people like Vine DeLoya, young writers, and they were writing "Custer Died for Your Sins."
Yeah, great book.
And so we were having that generation of people. Stan Steiner calls them the New Indian. Matter of fact, at that time, Tim Geiger was working with, I think it was called Wiaha or some a paper
in California.
In California, and so he was pushing the envelope then to get Native views, and so when these students would do that, I would send them copies of their works, and they published them.
Oh, really? Wow. Okay.
And so, what that did for that student, it encouraged him.
Yeah.
And also, they had firsthand information about their life. Mm-hmm. They didn't need an anthropologist to tell the way from one generation to the next generation who they were.
So they were writing their own story.
They were writing their own story and using it.
Dr. Zimiga, let's take a break. That's some really good information. I really enjoyed listening to that. Let's take a break. We'll be back in a couple of minutes.
Native Son News has been voted the best weekly newspaper in its class for 2015 by the South Dakota and North Dakota Newspaper Associations. You can find a copy of the Native Son News at many businesses and vending machines in Rapid City and the surrounding area, and on all 9 reservations. We publish every Wednesday, so advertisers and subscribers can reach our diverse readership by calling 605-721-1266. The Native Son News covers the other side of the story.
You can't predict life's ups and downs. You just give it all you've got to stay on top. But it's easier with a partner like Security First Bank. Since 1898, we've been riding with you through the country's biggest ups and downs. And this is where we'll stay. Security First Bank, a relationship you can count on. Member FDIC.
I have a dream. I want to be a soldier. I have a dream. I want to be a construction worker.
You can help kids' dreams come true by donating to Rural America Initiative's Building Fund.
Maybe know that earning a GED can increase your lifetime earnings, can be a first step into a university or technical institute. But maybe you don't know how easy preparing for the GED test is anywhere in the Black Hills. Classes are free, a service of the Career Learning Center of the Black Hills and Black Hills Special Services Cooperative. Go online to learn more or call. Earning a GED can change your life.
Hi, welcome back to Oyate Today. Once again, our guest tonight is Dr. Art Zimiga. Thank you so much for being here, sir. It's been great.
Well, it's
I'm
good to
enjoying
be
this.
with you today.
Yeah, no, I love this. I love this historical discussion. And I just kind of want to touch base a little bit more about what we were talking about before the break, as far as that generation of the late 60s, early 70s. You brought in Tim Gallego in journalism. You brought in, you know, all these things that were happening kind of out in California, I guess, but we're starting to form and develop this curriculum in Native American studies, which didn't really exist before. And so, you know, to be a part of that movement must have been a really kind of, I don't know how to explain that, but it's just, you know, bold and out there. So I don't know if you feel that way. But
Well, no, I just think that we felt comfortable to be around one another. And we had terms like, if your behavior, and it didn't matter someone coming up and saying, are you full blood, are you what? We'd say, hey, that's a skin.
yeah,
So we identified with that, and we had the opportunity, I guess, to be able to sit down because we experienced the same kind of institutional racism that went on, of telling you who you were, and like their policies was, you know, kill the Indian and save the child, and that had been going on. So that generation of educators, you know, they start challenging things. I mean,
they started to ask those questions.
they asked those questions, and then together within that generation, they knew that what happened to their parents, and because it was always a threat. But now, you know, you had
a threat in which way? In which way were they?
Well, they were, you know, if you didn't go to school, they'd threaten to put your grandparents or, you know, your parents in jail. There was always a threat because there was never enough jobs. You know, there was, and so there was places like, even during like World War II, during that time, after that, and even during that time, they recruited a lot of Native American families, Lakota families, to work at the Black Hills Ordnance Depot. And from that, some of a lot of those families were allotted maybe 160 acres. Well, when they came back after serving working at the depots, different Ogallala depot in Nebraska, they came back and found out, they said, some bureaucrat come up to them and said, hey, you can't come back on this land. It was allotted to you. But the thing is, in the allotment, it says that if you abandoned it for, so you go over there and there's 80 acres for you. But they had no way to, they just accepted it. But it was the others, that other generation that came along that realized that there was something that wasn't right.
Wrong with that, yeah.
Yeah. And so and those were the mentors back in the older people, my grandparents and them, and all them, they were close because on the outside, they were being bombarded, being attacked. But there was a lot of people that wanted to see what they call, I was a good Indian, because I was going to school. But there was a lot of people when they relocated them. They relocated them to Chicago, and that was to get them off the land. So it was...
Was that done to kind of help strip the land from them, like you had mentioned them?
Yeah, sure.
Basically, kind of?
Yeah.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, I mean, so you had a heritage. If you have you're tribally enrolled, if you have a U before the numbers, that means unallotted. Today they have excess lands out here related to the Homestead Act that a lot of people, that Homestead Act, it said you will develop this land, stay on this land, maintain it, but that wasn't true. They just pulled a little house, they'd take a picture of it with the deal, and then they would get the allotment, and then they would sell it to somebody else and move on. And so that's how they accumulated the land. But that allotment process disenfranchised the Lakota people or the next generations to come.
All of the kids and grandkids
Yeah.
and everybody else that
Yeah.
all this got fractionated and yeah.
So I learned that from the people, that generation, but also the others that have had the same experience with, as far as their grandparents and their parents. So that was, I think at the time, we wanted to make sure together that we had a voice. And because we had seen that as far as the black communities, they were getting all the Asian communities, they were having, but there was little to do with Native Americans until that generation of people start writing. That generation of people start getting together. And they were focused,
What's part of what's really interesting too about that generation is they didn't have the internet for one, and
Yeah.
they didn't have this mass access to information like we do today. So they really had to go into these different libraries, these different museums, these different archives, these different areas of research to find that information. So they did the legwork a lot.
Well, and the thing is that's where it was. Many of us today, we talk about, my grandfather said this, but if you wanted to learn about yourself, as far as your heritage, now we have all kinds of ways you could, DNA, all this. But the Lakota people within themselves, we had to go to the universities and do the research. Because one thing good about it, the anthropologists said they did this and they did this.
Yeah, they recorded it really well.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then there were some of the other professors that were teaching it, that they separated this country into different classifications. Like one professor said, well, I don't know anything about the Great Plains people, but I'm an authority on the Hopi and the Navajo. So like Professor Savage, they would have specific areas. So there was more studies done on Native Americans and indigenous people. And you had all these reports coming out, that anthros. And so that's why when Floyd Westerman, he came out with Custer Died for Your Sons, he says, you know, he sang that song, Hide Your Past Away, Here Comes the Anthros. And so...
One of my favorite lines.
Yeah. And so Floyd was that way, you know. So I had in my life, the privilege of associating with it. So when we sat down, no, we didn't have the internet. No, but we had a voice. And so together we start using that voice and working together.
And getting those discussions going.
Yeah.
Awesome. We're going to take a break. Thanks so much. We'll be back in a couple minutes.
I like to eat apples and bananas. I want to eat apples and bananas. I need to eat apples and bananas. Why can't I eat apples and bananas?
Support the Feeding America nationwide network of food banks to help provide meals to those in need. Join us at feedingamerica.org.
When discrimination happens in our community, and it does happen,
then it's time to stand up
and speak out to make it stop.
Discrimination hurts and excludes.
We can be better than that.
People of Black Hills have a connection to each other, and none of us deserve discrimination.
The Rapid City Human Relations Commission can help with discrimination issues in housing, employment, and public accommodations.
And each of us, when we see it or hear it, can do our part to end discrimination.
You have a responsibility to stand up and speak out.
If Youth and Family Services weren't available in this community, there would be a lot of unmet basic needs. Very few organizations do as good a job as Youth and Family Services, getting every ounce of usefulness out of people's time, their dollars that they donate.
Youth and Family Services help so many kids. It's a great value to the community.
Join me, because together we help kids.
Hi, welcome back to Oyate Today. Once again, our guest tonight is Dr. Art Zimiga. Thank you so much for being here, sir. It's been a really, really interesting conversation. I really enjoyed this, so thank you so much. And I wrote down a bunch of questions, and I don't even think I asked one of them. But one of the things that I wanted to get at was, you know, you brought your Harvard hat there.
Yeah.
You've had some experience there. So let's talk a little bit about your experience at Harvard and how that affected and changed your life. So how did you end up there, by the way?
I was, as I said, it was at UCLA, and there was a Native American lady that was teaching named Pat Locke, Kevin Locke's mother.
Okay.
And she had graduated from UCLA, and it'd be surprising the number of Native American people graduated from UCLA in engineering. And so she said, they're having this program at Harvard. You should, Art, why don't you fill out a application and we'll send it in. So I said, I don't know if I want to do that. I'm enjoying, but she said it's going to, you know, we have to move into other areas, and we need to have people to go there to be a part of that. So one afternoon she called me and she said, Art, are you doing anything? She said, let's go down to the village and they have a good place that has soup, and they have some good beer there, and then it was Japanese beer. So I went down, and she just, what you've done, she interviewed me where I was from. She was from Standing Rock. Dr. B. Medicine, you know, she was teaching up at Berkeley, and other people like that, you know, and so she wrote it all down. And she came back. She said, "Here's your story. Now send this in."
Oh, wow, okay. So that's how you got your call.
So I sent it off.
Yeah.
I mean, she put the stamp on there. But the thing is, when I got there, I took a year of absentia, and I came back to the University of South Dakota where I started. And I created programs there because of what I had done within the library. And we created programs for Indian counselors for Indian students, like Dr. Lionel Bordeaux. He went to that program. There was others that here today that that had participated in that program for a master's. But after that, there was a man from Pine Ridge. I need to mention his name. His name was Dr. Jim Wilson. Dr. Jim Wilson was working for OEO, Office of Economic Opportunities, and he said, "Why don't we have Native American people going to the older colleges, not just to the state schools?" So he was the one that raised the money to get Native students into Harvard Law, into the ed school and medical school.
Wow.
And so it was people like that. So when I got there, I worked on my master's, finished it within a year. And what I found about it is that they didn't tell me who I was. They asked me, the question was that, who are you? What do you think you can do? They wanted to know what I was thinking. And nobody, when I went to the university, ever said that to me.
So they let you define your destiny and your path and stuff.
And I had never had that experience. I was always been told who I was. So when I got to Harvard, that was one of the things that I did, but I also was a teaching fellow. I mean, I taught undergraduates, and I had a full professor, Sheldon Davis, but I taught, and I would have these students come in. So at Harvard gave me that opportunity.
Dr. Zimiga, I want to thank you so much for coming in tonight.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
I'll be glad to come back again.
Hey, we'll do it again. I want to thank our producers. I want to thank our sponsors. I want to thank Prairie Edge for hosting our show tonight. And I want to thank you for making Oyate Today a part of your night.
You've been watching Oyate Today, brought to you by Native Sun News Today.